Acts, chapter 23, verses 12 through 35, verses 12 through 15. And when it was day, certain of the Jews banded together and bound themselves under a curse, saying that they would neither eat nor drink till they had killed Paul. And they were more than 40 which had made this conspiracy. And they came unto the chief priests and elders and said, We've bound ourselves under a great curse, that we will eat nothing until we've slain Paul. Now therefore ye, with the council, signify to the chief captain that he bring him down unto you tomorrow, as though ye would inquire something more perfectly concerning him, and we, or ever he come near, are ready to kill him. Burkitt notes, observe here, 1. A barbarous and bloody plot, a cursed combination and conspiracy against the life of the innocent and useful apostle. No sooner was it daylight, but the wicked Jews bind themselves by an oath, never to eat or drink more until they eat the apostle's flesh and drink his blood. Thus the wicked plotteth against the just, and gnasheth upon him with his teeth. Psalm 37:12. Observe, 2, the numbers which were engaged in this conspiracy, more than 40. They all agreed as one man. Lord, how numerous, how unanimous, how resolute and outrageous are the enemies of thy holy religion to carry on their cursed contrivances for the extirpation of it. Thus was it here, these enemies were numerous, more than 40. The devil's design never miscarry for want of fit instruments. He has a party ever ready to oppose the gospel in every place. And as they were unanimous as well as numerous, they combined together in one cursed bond. Here was unity, but not a unity in truth, but a conspiracy against it. Here was the agreement in friendship, but it was like that of Herod and Pilate, against Christ, not for him. And they were resolute and outrageous. They bound themselves under a curse, under a bloody vow to pursue their purpose of murdering the apostle. It has been the old policy of the enemies of the church to oblige and bind themselves by oaths and exhortations, by leagues and associations, to carry on their wicked and bloody designs against the church. They were more than 40 which made this conspiracy. Observe 3, the quality of the persons which were engaged in this bloody purpose. They were the Sadducees, who denied the immortality of the soul and a life after death. And they apply themselves to the high priest and Sanhedrim or great council, not doubting of his and their readiness to join with them. Oh, what a low ebb was the Jewish religion now at! What a high priest and priesthood was there that must head a confederacy of murdering Sadducees! How great was the degeneracy of the Jewish church when their chief priests were thus ready to comply with and contribute their best assistance to such a cruel crew of cutthroats and bloody assassins. But they had almost filled up the measure of their sins, and their final destruction was near approaching. Observe lastly, what craft and cruelty, what fraud and force are here found and combined together in the church's enemies. The council must court the captain that he bring down a prisoner as though they would inquire something more perfectly concerning him. Thus was the plot against the apostle's life laid craftily as well as cruelly. Under a pretense of having the prisoner re-examined, they contrived to have him brought down from the castle, and in his way to the council they combined together for his destruction. Lord, abate the power of the church's enemies, since their malice cannot be abated. Verses 16 through 21. And when Paul's sister's son heard of their laying in wait, he went and entered into the castle and told Paul. Then Paul called one of the centurions unto him and said, Bring this young man unto the chief captain, for he hath a certain thing to tell him. So he took him and brought him to the chief captain, and said, Paul the prisoner called me unto him, and prayed me to bring this young man unto thee, who has something to say unto thee. Then the chief captain took him by the hand, and went with him aside privately, and asked him, What is it thou hast to tell me? And he said, The Jews have agreed to desire thee, that thou wouldest bring down Paul tomorrow into the council, as though they would inquire somewhat of him more perfectly. But do not thou yield unto them, for they lay in wait for him, of them more than 40 men, which have bound themselves with an oath, that they will neither eat nor drink till they have killed him. And now are they ready, looking for a promise from thee. Burkitt notes, note here, 1, that no conspiracies are or can be kept secret from God, who can both detect them and defeat them at his pleasure. Note the remarkable providence of God in bringing this conspiracy to the knowledge of St. Peter's sister's son. He was perhaps by when the conspirators were contriving the mischief, and overheard them. It's happy for the innocent that the malicious cannot keep their own counsel. God oftentimes causeth the tongues of his people's enemies to fall upon themselves, and they discover the wicked purposes of their hearts, which none but themselves were privy to. Note 3. How the hearts of all men are in the hand of the Lord, and how he turneth them as he pleaseth. This is evident from the chief captain's great humanity towards St. Paul, and his courteous humility towards his sister's son, taking the youth by the hand, and as readily giving him both audience and dispatch. Such a sovereignty and dominion has God over the hearts of men that he can instantly incline them as he pleases, and make even enemies become benefactors at his pleasure. Verses 22 through 24. So the chief captain then let the young man depart, and charged him, See thou tell no man that thou hast shown these things to me. And he called unto him 2 centurions, saying, Make ready 200 soldiers to go to Caesarea, and horsemen 70, and spearmen 200, at the 3rd hour of the night, and provide them beasts, that they may set Paul on, and bring him safe unto Felix the governor. Burkitt notes, observe here, 1. How wonderfully God overruled the heart of the chief captain, and that he took care both of St. Paul and the young man also. He bids the young man depart, for had it been known that he had discovered the conspiracy, they had conspired against his life, and had not the chief captain conveyed away the apostle, his enemies, who had been disappointed in this, would have made further attempts against his life. Thus doth the good providence of God work for his servant's preservation. Observe, too, what a strong guard does God raise and set round the apostle for his defense and safety, even a guard of heathen soldiers to secure him from the Jewish rage, 200 soldiers, 70 horsemen, and spearmen 200. What a royal life guard was here raised for the apostle's safe conduct to Caesarea. None of all these soldiers intended him any good, but God made use of them as effectually as if they had the greatest goodwill for him. God can make bad persons show kindness to his good servants, and do his will by them who know nothing of his mind and will. When God has work to do, he'll find instruments to do it by, and though we see them not, yet are they never further off. Verses 25 through 30. And he wrote a letter after this manner, Claudius Lysias, unto the most excellent governor Felix, sendeth greeting. This man was taken of the Jews, and should have been killed of them. Then I came with an army and rescued him, having understood that he was a Roman. And when I would have known the cause wherefore they accused him, I brought him forth into their council, whom I perceived to be accused of questioning of their law, but to have nothing laid at his charge worthy of death or of bonds. And when it was told to me how the Jews laid in wait for the man, I sent straightway to thee, and gave commandment to his accusers also, to lay before thee what they had against him. Farewell. Burkitt notes, the chief captain, Lysias, having sent St. Paul under a strong guard to Caesarea by night, where Felix the Roman governor resided, he writes a letter to acquaint Felix with the accusation laid to the prisoner's charge, in which letter observe 1. The title given to the Roman governor, Most Excellent, Claudius Lysias, to the most excellent governor Felix, sendeth greeting. Titles of civil honor and respect given to persons in place and power are agreeable to the mind and will of God. There's an honor which belongs to men with respect to their external degree and place, when none is due to them with respect to their internal qualifications. He that is very honorable as to his place may not deserve any honor as to his worth, yet ought he to be honored so far as his place requireth. Observe, too, how God overruled the hearts and pen of this captain, Lysias, to do the apostle right, in representing his case fairly and indifferently, that he found nothing brought against him that was punishable either with death or bonds by the Roman law. Observe 3, how triflingly he speaks of the great things in question concerning our blessed Redeemer's death and resurrection, as also of the whole gospel. He calls them, undervaluingly, questions of their law. As the wisdom of the world is foolish with God, so the manifold wisdom of God is accounted and esteemed folly by the ignorant and blind world. Observe 4, how God overruled his very slightings of these controversies in dispute for the apostles' advantage, he being by that means preserved from the rage of the Jews. When this man was taken of the Jews and should have been killed by them, I came with an army and rescued him. Behold how God accomplishes his own designs for the preservation of his servants by the hands of those from whom destruction could rather have been expected. Thus here God made use of the heathen captain to rescue and defend the apostle from the enraged Jews who send him under a strong guard with a friendly letter in favor of him to Felix the governor at Caesarea, where he gives notice to his accusers to implead him face to face. Blessed be God that our times are in his hands, not in our enemies' hands, nor yet in our own. Until we finish the work which God designed us, neither men nor devils can take us off. Verses 31 through 35. Then the soldiers, as it was commanded them, took Paul and brought him by night to Antipatris. On the morrow they left the horsemen to go with him and returned to the castle, who, when they came to Caesarea and delivered the epistle to the governor, presented Paul also before him. And when the governor had read the letter, he asked of what province he was. And when he understood he was from Cilicia, I will hear thee, he said, whom thine accusers are also come. And he commanded him to be kept in Herod's judgment hall. Burkitt notes, the apostle being brought before Felix the Roman governor, although he was a heathen, yet he showed the apostle far more favor than his own countrymen, the Jews. For observe 1, his affability to St. Paul in asking him of his country. 2, his justice. He would not judge him till he had his accusers face to face. I will hear thee when thine accusers are come. If it be enough to accuse, who can be innocent? And if it be sufficient to deny, who would be found guilty? Magistrates must know a cause before they give a sentence or judgment about it. Otherwise, though they pronounce a right sentence, it is not in judgment, but by accident. Magistrates must be stars as well as ministers. They must do nothing blindfold or blindly. Observe 3, his great favor towards the apostle in committing him a prisoner not to the common goal, but to Herod's palace, a fair prison, if a place of confinement may be called so. The Sanhedrim at Jerusalem, though of his own country and his own religion, yet were not so kind to him as Felix the heathen governor. Thus the chapter concludes with an account of the apostle's wonderful deliverance from the Jews at Jerusalem who conspired his destruction, together with the instrumental means and manner of it. In the next chapter, we find him brought to Caesarea, tried before Felix, making a defense for himself, and so reasoning that Felix trembled. Behold, a prisoner at liberty, and his judge in bonds.